right, we are live. Josh, this might be the last time we're live for a Star Wars show for a long time, because the next thing that's coming out in terms of live action shows is not a TV show, it's a movie. So that'll be Mando and Grogu next year. But there's no dates on Ahsoka or anything else right now. So we'll have to wait.
Yeah, we do have to wait. Rosario Dawson, bless her, she did confirm they are shooting season 2 as we speak.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's gonna be bittersweet, trees, unless we start doing shows for Star Wars movies. It's gonna be a while.
I mean, we will have to discuss at some point if we're going to do Maul. I'm assuming that's a lot of episodes. I'm assuming that's a lot of episodes, but we might have to bring it back for that. We might have to bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely do Maul. Definitely.
All right, I'm in. I want to talk about Darth Maul. So I'm totally in for that. But we got to talk about these last 3 episodes of Andor, because Josh, I do know how you feel about them, and I think we both feel the same. They were incredible. And I can't get enough of this show. I can't get enough of Tony Gilroy and Dan Gilroy's writing and directing in this show. So I want to kick it to you just real quick. Overall, the show, where do you put this in terms of your Star Wars fandom? Where's this laying out in terms of the hierarchy?
I guess the bad news is that it's so good. I don't think anyone else within the Star Wars universe is going to meet the quality that we just saw. They set a bar that's going to be really hard to reach. And I give a lot of credit to Jon Favreau and The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian blew everyone away, really shocked us as far as the overall quality and the content of that show, really opened our eyes to new characters and new worlds, and even finding a way to fold into, for the diehard Star Wars fans of the books and the animated shows, to bring that all back into the fold, which is phenomenal. And then Tony Gilroy's like, hey, I want to do a show about Cassian Andor. And everyone's like, why? And we watched these 2 seasons. It's like, again, they should win all the Emmys. If they don't, it's politics. And Chorizy knows that way better than I do. And I'm sure you've heard it, Chorizy, about the politics when it comes to TV awards and etc. But phenomenal storytelling. And again, it just raises the bar to a level that everything else now moving forward for Star Wars is going to be compared to Andor. And even though it falls short, that doesn't mean that it's not good. Andor is what? I mean, we had episodes this season, trees. You go to imdb.com that are rated 9.8. We are talking about some of the greatest television episodes of all time rated on imdb.com in this season. So it was phenomenal. But the bad news is it's so high that I don't know if anyone's going to be able to touch it.
Yeah, I think you got to think about things as like these shows, these movies, they're different, right? They're all going to have different vibes to them. They're going to be written differently. Like comparing Skeleton Crew to Andor is insane, because it's supposed to be pulpy. It's supposed to have all these things that like appeal to a younger audience too. I thought Skeleton Crew was really good. I really enjoyed it. Andor is just something that is out of this world. And it does, it just feels like and I've heard Tony Gilroy say some things around this, is like, I've always wanted to write a like this, and this was the perfect vehicle for it. So it's interesting because it is Star Wars, but it's probably something that Tony Gilroy has been thinking about for decades. And just this is the perfect vehicle for it. And he did a great job of incorporating a lot of stuff, keeping it in line with the rest of Star Wars. I'm going to watch Rogue One tonight. I'm excited to see what's different for me. I watched it right before the show started, so there's already some things that I know that'll be like slightly different. Have you watched it, Josh?
I did, and I'm curious for those that are watching the live stream, let us know in the comments section if you have watched Rogue One, because I couldn't wait. It was 12:30 in the morning, and I just said, screw it, and just watched Rogue One and stayed up until like 2:30, a little bit later. I do have thoughts. We can share that at the end of the show. for those that are making the transition. But yeah, definitely let us know in the comments section if you guys have seen Rogue One, because I would like to get your thoughts as well as the transition from the last episode of Andor to Rogue One. But yeah, let's talk about these episodes, because super tense. I was stressed out watching episodes 10 and 11, Chorizy. I don't know about you.
I was. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the Clea and Luthen backstory, because I think that sets up a lot in the episodes. And I think it brings home a couple things that were touched on earlier, and why Luthen ends the way he does. But so one, it's crazy that the whole faction of the rebellion grew out of a guy just walking away from what looks to be Empire-ish, some offshoot of like an army. It feels similar to the Solo backstory of like he's in a war and he's like, why am I doing this? What is going on? But a far more extreme version of it, right? Where you could see Luthen losing his mind in that moment and finding Clea, and then them going out and basically starting the rebellion from scratch. Josh, what were your thoughts on this backstory, and like how did it help the story along as a whole?
So I think at first when I was watching it, I was wondering, why now? Why at the end of Andor are we getting this backstory? But it was so beautifully told, and the timing was right because of the fateful decision that had to be made. And the experiences and the lessons that Clea learned from Luthen, and just the absolute badassery, man. She did that mission solo. Like,
yeah,
James Bond would have a tough time pulling off what she did. And it was
I love
phenomenal.
when they're like, oh, a team of 3 is the theory right now. And it's like, no,
yeah,
one person.
And it just added another depth to the emotional decision that she had to make when she got to the breathing machine, right? And everything that she had worked towards is set in motion, but she knew there was one last thing that they would need to do. And in the case of either one getting burned, they would have to be okay with killing one another. And I know that we're going to talk about another murder that did happen at the beginning of episode 10 that may have shocked some people. But you can see the emotion in Clea. Like, just getting there was an arduous task, to say the least. And then just the absolute pain that she just went through having to pull the plug on the breathing machine. But it was absolutely necessary. And the panic and the anxiety of her hoping that somebody could hear her message at Coruscant. Again, like just thinking about it and revisiting in my mind, Chorizy, I can feel the stress level in my body rising. So phenomenal job. Well done, everyone. Directors, DPs, actors, writers, producers. You guys absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, I think the thing that like hit me on the second watch is the scene in Naboo where he's like, I'm worried about what I'm doing to you. He's really kind of going like, do you really want to be a part of this? Is this really what you want to do? And like, when you start to tie that into things that he says throughout the show, like to Cassian, like, we're both going to hang for this. That's what's going to happen. When he tells Lonnie, I'm fighting for something that I'll never see. That scene in Naboo is like a suicide pact between the two of them. Like it plays into later when Clea doesn't want to leave. When she's like, no, just take this information forward. It's almost a level of guilt that she's alive and that he's not, right? Like that this was
I didn't think about it that way.
She was the one that was supposed to going back to burn the comms, right? Like, and I think that's really, part of the story that they're telling is like, from that moment in Naboo, this has been an all out, like, we will take the Empire down, but we're never going to live to see the post Empire world. This is us burning it to the ground, and we're going to have to suffer alongside it. And I think that it really shows in that it really makes the safe house scene make a lot more sense, because you're kind of like, you're sitting there like going, get the heck out of there. Cause you know what's coming. They don't know what's coming, but you're like, blow up everything in here, get out, run, and she just doesn't want to leave. And I think if you didn't get that backstory, you don't understand that moment as much. I think that in that. Now, I did mention he tells Lonnie the same thing. Now, I want your thoughts on the Luthen Lonnie exchange and the outcome, which is Luthen kills Lonnie after giving him the information about the Death Star. Do you feel he was wrong to do that, or do you feel that it was the only path?
I think, you know what, to save his skin and to save the rebellion, it was the only choice. Because Lonnie mentioning his family, if the Empire got a hold of his family, he would squeal. He would let everything go. So, in a way, Luthen is like, you know what? I am protecting your family. Shot in the heart and walk away. Now the Empire will find out that you were murdered, not suicide. And even though your family will grieve, your wife and daughter will be unbothered by the Empire. So I guess in a way, in a very morbid and cruel way, Luthen provided mercy to Lonnie.
It was.
I think about it. Does that make sense?
It was like it in the moment. It feels self-serving. And Chorizy brought this up to me too when we were talking about it a little bit. And he's very throughout the show. He talks about his wife and kids. He stresses that they need to be safe. He's got them tucked away now. If the Empire's after him, they don't care that his wife and kids with him. They'll kill them all, right? Or they'll torture them all. And so, this is the only way that the wife and kids stay safe. Now, very self-serving to Luthen, because this is like the biggest loose end in his whole operation. Yeah. And he gets the gold that he wanted from this with this information. That he gave a lot along the way, but this was it. This was just
it's the end game. The Death Star is the end game of everything.
Incredible amount of information. And I think that leads me to the next question, which is Dedra Meero. Did she bring down the entire Empire almost single-handedly? Think about the interrogation scene, because I think it tells us more than is on the face of what it's talking about.
She definitely brought down the ISB, without a doubt. She definitely did that. I don't know about the Empire. I don't know. I would say she did not bring down the Empire. She did destroy the ISB, though. And I guess in a way, if the ISB is what helps give the Empire control. Oh, I see what you're going at. Okay. I don't know if she's the most important Jenga piece, but it is definitely taking down ISB definitely weakens the Jenga tower. So I'll say no to the Empire, but definitely ISB. She does destroy the ISB.
So it definitely destroys the ISB. Definitely. I think the interesting part of the discussion when the interrogation is the scavenger part. When he's talking about how she's a scavenger and she gathered up all this information. And what is important there is that the information that she puts together would have never been in one place had Krennic had his way. These things would have all been separate, and Lonnie would have never been able to piece it together. In 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on who's talking, Lonnie pieces this all together, because while building the case for Axis, she's bringing together all the information that shows you the whole story of what Krennic's actually doing. And in that gives the Death Star information away to the rebels days before its first use. And so I don't know if I make the leap to she brings down the Empire herself, but at the end of the day, the Death Star would be an unknown to them had she not been so tied to Luthen and trying to bring Axis down. And what a stupid way to try and do it. She I was glad that they used like the, typical movie version of Catching the Criminal, where they tell them exactly how they caught him and like all this stuff. And like, yeah, that should backfire on you. Like that's not how you do this, right? And it's even like kind of harkens back to Partagaz telling her earlier in the show, catch them first and then make them a star.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like right on the goal line there, and she drops the ball. She's 10 yards ahead of everybody, drops the ball on the ground. It was an amazing fumble, and I loved it. And the interrogation scene is awesome. Krennic is great in that scene. You obviously you see the background that we have today, the finger in the head. Apparently, that was ad-libbed. That was not in the script. Ben Mendelsohn just was like, this is how this would go down. Gave the index finger into the skull. It's very, very fun. Very, very deserving for Dedra.
Yeah. And the way her story ends.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. But getting back to Kleya, K2SO comes through in the clutch. Great. Like I was a little worried like how little K2SO we were getting. And like I really wanted to see like how this relationship is as strong as it is. That scene where he tears through the infantry and just like bodies flying, guys getting slammed on the ground, people thrown over the ledge. I love the last guy getting thrown before he goes to save them. And just K2SO carrying a gigantic gun is ridiculous to me, and I love it. But he gets them out. He gets them out. They get to safety. They go to Yavin. They're in front of this group of rebel leaders, not Saw Gerrera, just in front of the rest of the rebel leaders. Cassian delivers the info. And I mean, Cassian needed to channel the guy from Road Trip. Remember that guy is like, you're all brains and no cock and balls. He needed that speech to them because, Josh, I don't know what's going on with the rebels in this. They're not ready to fight at all. They're very scared. What did you think about the resistance to Cassian's info in this?
Okay, so if you watch Rogue One, it carries over incredibly well. Incredibly well. It's the same tenor. It's the same mood between Andor and Rogue One. Absolutely nailed it. And it consistent as well. And I think because these senators that have defected for their planets, they're just so risk adverse because if they screw up, thousands, if not millions, die in their head. So it's so weird. It's like poker when you are playing against a nervous player and you know that they are playing too much money that they are comfortable playing with. Chorizy, like there's too much in the pot. Like, oh man, if I don't win this hand, I'm going to be short on rent. That's the kind of risk adverse and gamble that they're already playing. Like you're already in, but you're not willing to go all the way. And I think that does a good job of resembling the factions within the alliance of who's all in and who is not. And I love that because the soldiers and the ones that are on the front lines are giving up everything. They're willing to go all in, but their leaders are not. And that creates conflict. And that is why the alliance, until A New Hope, just doesn't seem ready to really take on the Emperor, and why they seemed destined to fail.
Yeah. I mean, I like the destined to fail thing. I think that you're right. Like they were too risk averse, and it takes Cassian and Jyn in Rogue One to just go off and start the war. Right. And I think that parallels really nicely with Luthen and Kleya deciding we're just going to start this war. We're going to blow up this bridge on Naboo and it's on. We're just going now. And it's going to be a long time, but it's a long road. We're going to do it. And I kind of love that Cassian mirrors that later. Really, really great the way that
it also gives some credence though to Saw Gerrera that he isn't completely crazy, right? Chorizy, he's just fed up, no action. Screw you guys. I'm going to Jeddah and I'm going to blow some stuff up. Like it is the difference between the leaders who are senators and all they know how to do is talk, and soldiers, all they know how to do is fight. And when you're asking the soldier to go into a room of talkers and try to convince them that this is what's going on, yeah, I guess Cassian was always destined to fail, but the soldier instinct kicks in, or it takes Mon Mothma, who I thought was convinced, right? But
yeah, she seemed to. But I think that in that room, like there's a big bias against Luthen, and she's tied to Luthen, right? Like so, right. Cassian and her are going to be on that side, and I think that the rest of the room is kind of just like, well, we can't trust this dude. When she knows you can, she wouldn't be alive if not. Cassian knows that Luthen wouldn't give bad information, that he gave everything to have this happen. So I think that's why they just kind of put her on the outside of that conversation, which is also ridiculous because she's supposed to be the leader.
Yeah. So no, I really do enjoy that scene. And then the back talks, very painful. Have you talked to Bix lately?
Yeah, that was rough. We'll get to Bix in a little bit, but yeah. Like, I mean, that was like, I mean, I kind of feel like that's the piece that makes everything more painful is Bix, right? Like this is everything's more dire in this story when we know about Bix, and we'll get to that in a minute. And I do want to talk about the end for a lot of these characters. Like in the montage and in these episodes, we see a lot of people come to their end. We see Partagaz go full Warden from Shawshank. We don't see it, but we know it happened. We see Cassian, and I think this was a good scene where Draven's talking to Cassian, and they set up the meeting with Tivik, right? Because I think one of the things that's been a piece that people have a problem with in Rogue One is how quickly Cassian kills Tivik at the beginning of the movie. And this kind of gives a little bit of credence to that, going like, we don't know what's going on here. We don't know if we can trust him. Like there's a lot in question in this moment because he's not supposed to be on Krafreen. He's supposed to be with Saw. Right. Like, so it's a lot of confusion, and, if he's getting boxed in and this guy can't climb, Luthen comes out a little bit here. And I like that added to the story. What were some of the ones that you really liked and how they showed the end for this character?
For Cassian?
Or any of the characters that they like kind of the culmination of those characters within the show, like in the montage, or like Saw talking to the group where he's the worst hide and seek player of all time.
Yeah. I definitely like Cassian because I thought that was the best, because he is walking to that mission to Tivik, and that really kicks off Rogue One. And that's why when I was watching that scene, I'm like, all right, I have to watch Rogue One. I can't stop. I just can't. I got to continue with the story. So I think that was my favorite. I love the open-endedness to Claire's character, kind of opening the door that maybe she was in A New Hope and an Empire Strikes Back. But
Val too, right? I mean, like,
Val, yeah. But Bix, I think I was curious in where she went. I thought she would be fighting, but the way that ends, going back to the farming planet, that does make a ton of sense.
It's great stuff.
So I think
it's great stuff.
See, when you're in the series finale, and we have seen montages and this type of method of storytelling fail, where I think it fails is like The Wire. So if you watch The Wire ends on a montage of like all 5 seasons, where it's it finally clicks. Now I see everything and how everything is connected.
I have a different feeling on that. I don't want to spoil The Wire for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it's more
been
of
out
a
for 20 plus years.
Well, then I'll just say like it shows the cycle, right? Like that all the impact that you think the characters have had through the show just really didn't have an impact. It's just going to recycle into the next group, and like you see new bubbles and so on and so forth. And so that's, to me, I like that montage as well, but agree to disagree. Agree to disagree. But I will tell you one that I liked in this, and that it was with Perrin with Davos Skulden's wife in the car. And
I knew you were gonna pick this. The most hashtag 108ing.
So I watched someone put some additional context to this. And this is one of those things, Josh, where I feel like I like when the editors get it right. And so there was supposed to be an additional plot to the Senate speech that Mon Mothma gives, where Davos Skulden owns a TV network and he leaves it up after the Senate turns it off. And that's how everybody actually hears it. And that this was going to be like the, kind of juxtaposition to it of like, well, these two put their lives in danger and now they've found each other in this like sordid love affair. And it's like, I don't need all that. Perrin was like a crazy partier, horny dude. Like this is this just shows him being like elevating that and going even crazier without Mon there, and like him just like kind of going off the deep end. I didn't need that other story. I don't need Perrin to have a reason for that. I think we kind of got what Perrin is.
Yeah.
Show. So I like that end just to see like, hey, there are people out there who have no skin in this game. They could care less, and they're probably going to be fine either way at the end. And I thought that was a little interesting nugget to throw in there, and just kind of funny because you're just like, wait a second, that's that other guy's wife, you know. So
that's what I thought too. Yeah.
All right, we got to get to the child. We were just talking about this. So at the end of the show, obviously, Bix has a baby. It's obviously Cassian's. This is the reason she left. They've talked about this in interviews. It adds to why she left. It makes more sense if you didn't just take the Force healer piece to heart. This is on top of that. And on top of that, it makes it more heartbreaking that Cassian dies and never sees his child. Of course, Josh, the internet is fraught with rumors of who this child could be. And so I want to throw it to you and see if you have any of these. I could give you a few of the ones that have been thrown out there.
Okay, let's hear it. What's been thrown out?
So Din Djarin was thrown out, but that doesn't make sense because he was found during the Clone Wars by Death Watch. So he's too old. Poe Dameron, right age, but his parents were famously part of the rebellion. His mom flew in a bunch of the scenes that we, the kind of retconning her into like these battle scenes in Star Wars. So definitely not that. So I saw one. I thought this too. I thought this would be fun. But Zori Bliss, because also the right age. But in the comics, her family has been in this crime, basically a crime family forever on Kijimi. So not her. So those are some of the ones that have been thrown out there. Any thoughts on your side of like who this could be? Just wild guesses. And it's got to be kind of like adults in the Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker era there.
Well, Poe came to mind, but unfortunately, that's not Poe. I'm going to say it's a Emperor clone baby.
I like
it's
that.
Rey Skywalker.
The child is a strand cast. The only one I thought of, which I thought would be funny because it's like, oh, apparently B2 Emo taught this child to talk, would be DJ from Last Jedi, the Benicio del Toro character.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Him becoming a real piece of shit would be just kind of like, you're like, oh, that's not such a great ending then, you know? But
yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah, because we know who Ezra's parents are.
Yeah, they're well established, and Ezra would be too old because he's already a character. He at the same time as Rogue One.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's tough to do the timeline on this because it's just got to really think about it. You're thinking like the kids. If you were thinking of them as kids, their age would be like when this kid would be like a 10-year-old kid would be around Skeleton Crew.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I don't think it's any of the kids from Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, no. I know people want to be like, hey, it's gonna be a famous kid. It's probably nobody, right? But it does signify that Cassian's legacy does not end when he gets blown up by the Death Star. That he does leave a legacy behind. So, but it's so heartbreaking because it's like now you see that scene at the end. And I tweeted this out, like it just makes the ending of Rogue One even more gut-wrenching in a really good way.
Let's talk about that, Josh. You watched Rogue One.
Yeah.
What's different for you watching Rogue One now with this backstory?
So I would say it's a 90% seamless transition. The 10% is the Ursos. And I wonder if we needed a Galen cameo or a Jyn cameo. I don't know how a Jyn cameo would have worked. Unless you had Saw Gerrera perform some type of mission and you had like teenager Jyn Urso involved. But that doesn't make any sense either. Well, if you did it right away, right? If you did in the first 3 episodes where you had Saw Gerrera run a mission because it's like 4 years.
In the first series, right? Like as first season, like
season background. 2, episodes 1 through 3.
Okay.
If you had a Saw Gerrera mission where he leaves Jyn behind, for example, right?
Right. Yeah.
It is. If Rogue One is the third act, like season 1 of Andor is the first act, season 2 of Andor is the second act. If the third act is Rogue One to bring everything to a head, it is a bit jarring of like, why is Jyn Erso so important? And it's just a movie made almost 10 years ago. They did not think this through. They did not think they were going to be making Andor season 1 and season 2. That's the only area where it's like you get such little Jyn Erso, but she's so incredibly important. And all of a sudden, Cassian Andor, who was one of the main focuses, is like a secondary character. But everything else leading up to the actions of Rogue One and the mission and the headbutting that's going on Yavin, and then carrying out that mission anyways, and alliances are built on hope. The third time that we've heard it through Andor and through Rogue One, there's a part of me that just wanted to play A New Hope, but then I would have been up until like 5 in the morning and then be completely useless at work. So that 90% seamless transition, which honestly in storytelling, when it comes to movies and TV shows, Chorizy, that's phenomenal. You take that. It's so difficult, especially when you're shooting something prequel and try to make sense of what was already shot 9 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, overall the show's great. We do have a comment in here that I want to get to. So, Solid Angle says, my end montage question is, does Dedra survive until the fall of the Empire? And Ooh. I would think so, right? And so it's funny. I was telling Chorizy about this. Someone asked Tony Gilroy, which prison is she in, right? Because obviously she's in one of the prisons, and he's like, I don't know, Narkina 7 or 2. Like he's just basically saying like, hey, I didn't name the prison. Just it's the woman's version of what he was in, which means they're churning out parts of the Death Star though, right? Like so that facility is gonna possibly ramp up after this because they got to build another one. so yeah, I think she probably survives at least until the the fall of the first Death Star, and then she's what I would think she's in prison, helping the construction of the new Death Star unknowingly.
I will go the opposite, and I say she gets overcome with grief and she throws herself onto the floor when the lights go out. Kind of like a Brooks was here.
I mean, that feels right for the Empire, right? I feel like that's the kind of the way that goes with a lot of them. We saw it within in the Mandalorian, a bunch of them eating those things that like zap them, basically a cyanide tab.
Yeah.
And then, Partagas too. So like, I think that there's good reason to believe that she's either rotting in jail or has offed herself in jail. But that would
mean, let's say if I'm right, only one person within the ISB conference room survives.
Yeah. What's his face?
Who is sent to
arrest? I forget what his name is. Yeah, the guy gets sent to arrest him. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
The other thing though that could be interesting is she survives it, right? And then there's that whole program to bring people who are in the Empire back into society that we see.
Okay. Yeah, that would be fun. All right.
So that could be interesting. But yeah, I mean, let's I'll close it out. But overall, just an absolutely incredible show. One of my favorite TV shows, I think, of all time. I think this is definitely in the top 10, maybe in the top 5. Can't believe that this was a Star Wars show, to be honest. Like, a lot of people got shot in the face. There's a good amount of offing yourself. Like, there's a lot to take in. It's definitely not the show for the youngest kids, but I thought it was absolutely incredible. Josh, parting thoughts on Andor?
Lots of Emmys, lots of Golden Globes coming. Diego Luna definitely deserves some major awards, which is significant because Mexican born. That's going to be a pretty big focal point when it comes to voting, but he deserves it. You get all the awards. I wish every TV show best of luck. Our good friend Hot Dog Larry, who makes TV shows for a living. I am glad that you're not competing against Andor, my friend. And then your show will be part of next year's awards because no one's touching this. This was phenomenal. All the awards. Thank you, Tony Gilroy. And I guess with Kathleen Kennedy stepping down, what a victory lap for her. I mean, we have had, I thought, correct criticism of Kathleen and the way that she's handled Star Wars. But to give Jon Favreau a chance with The Mandalorian and to give Tony Gilroy the chance with Andor, amazing decisions. And yeah, take your victory lap, Kathleen, as you ride out to the sunset.
Couldn't agree more. And as we noted at the top of the show, as we agreed in time while we were doing this, we'll be back for Maul. We'll be back for Maul next year. Until then, you can find Josh at socksmachine.com and at socksmachine_Josh on Twitter, giving you all kinds of great White Sox content. And Josh, tomorrow, Ramova.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow, and then Sunday, Cork and Carry.
We'll be at Cork and Carry. So if you want to watch the Cubs games with us, the Cubs Sox games, come through. Saturday and Sunday we got you covered. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great night, everybody.